welcome to Just Africa, your gateway beyond headlines to the pulse of African business, development, and the economy. From homegrown ideas becoming global brands to policies reshaping markets and innovations transforming how Africa trades and grows. This is the story of our continent's transformation, from the wisdom of elders to the proverbs passed down by the fire. Africa's indigenous education is more than just a way of learning. It is a bridge between our past and our future. But in an era dominated by technology, global media, and Western-style schooling, how do we preserve these treasures of identity? And how can indigenous knowledge still shape the Africa of tomorrow? Today on Just Africa, we explore the role of indigenous education in protecting cultural values and ancestral knowledge. I am Olumide Shokoya. I have two perfect-looking gentlemen. From my left, I have the perfect gentleman himself, Onyepriye.
Hello, Olumide. It's good to be here today. Thank God it's Friday in Just Africa.
And of course, to my right, I have a veteran broadcast journalist, Bayo Olaoye. So glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here, but I'm not a gentleman.
All right. He says he's not a gentleman. But yes, we are looking at indigenous education. I remember growing up, when my dad talks to me, I don't reply him with English. I dare not. It's Yoruba at home, but maybe outside. And that doesn't mean he speaks good English. He speaks English, in fact, outside. But when he talks to me, we speak Yoruba. So that was instilled in us growing up. But if you look at some homes today, it's just English, 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 English. Even abroad, some parents even pay teachers to come and teach their own children how to speak Yoruba.
I am guilty of that too, because my grandchildren, subconsciously or consciously, I encourage them by speaking English to them. But my mother-in-law got a wind of it and told me to stop. But I thought in my own little knowledge and understanding that English language was it. But I tell you what, when you take these children outside the home, then you see this deficit. You see this deficit in morality, values, traditionality, and whatever. And so from the initial stage, it was wrong. I should have been communicating with my children in Yoruba language. And that was a status symbol too. I have my child in Corona High School. I have my child in St. Xavier's, whatever. It was a status symbol, which was symbolic, but was not profitable, and was not justifiable. And that accounts for the extinction of some local languages in Africa. The Igbos are complaining about it. The Yorubas now are. The Shekiris are complaining about it, that they cannot communicate with their children properly. Therefore, we need to do something about our local languages. My friend Desmond Elliott, 2, 4, 5 months ago, was introduced to the Lagos State House of Assembly the usage of the Yoruba language in communication and proceedings. Some people thought it was outlandish. It was a misnomer. But in this present age now, I think it's adaptable. It is reasonable.
All right.
For us to pass, for the polity to pass, to communicate with the public, we need the proper language to avoid misunderstanding, to avoid mistrust, and to avoid apathy.
Thank you very much. Priya, coming to you. We're talking about indigenous education. This is not something ideally you learn in schools. At best, you pick a language, Yoruba or Igbo, depending on the state you are, and you say, okay, this is what I want to learn. But indigenous education goes beyond that. It's storytelling, it's tradition, certain things you are well accustomed, you know how to do, how to receive visitors, how to greet. certain things you don't do as a way of culture. How was your childhood like?
My childhood was quite interesting, but I remember, giving birth in Lagos, taken back to the thick of Delta State, where the everyday language I heard then was the local language, was my Izon, or the Ijo language, as was popularly known. My grandmom, my father, my mom, my siblings who speaks the local language. When you go to school too, they speak the local language. The teacher can communicate in class by trying to teach you with English language, but outside, when you are during the break time, you have to play with your classmates and your colleagues, your classmates. You speak the local language to communicate. And that's very, very important. Sometimes the teachers who are indigenous people, when they have expressed some thought to the students, they've given the concept of what they are trying to teach the student. It gets to a specific area where they feel the students cannot really comprehend what exactly, or the picture they are trying to paint. Then they resort to the local language that the students get to understand. I've communicated with even some of my Yoruba friends who, when they go to the thick, there are places that you are sent to go and do NYSC, and you are teaching English language. But sometimes you use Yoruba to explain English language to the students there, and that facilitates understanding. Very good one. So it was good for me, and there were a lot of experiences I had during my short stay at that, between 1 and 8, between 1 and 7, that I spent there, and I had everything. My experience was quite something I cherished. But now, currently, as we speak, one of the people or the tribes in Nigeria that is they're not trying very hard. It's like a culture to them to preserve their local language, is our brothers from the north. Yes, you will never catch a northerner. It will be very difficult to catch a northerner, whether of the Hausa or the Fulani. Deficit or deficient of speaking their local language. It's very rare, unlike the Igbo, the Yoruba, the Ijo, the Shekiri, and the Ibibios. The Ibibios too are trying, but it's not like the northerners, and we must give it to them for really spending some time to preserve that local language. And it's a source of pride, a source of identity, because if you look at that language, including the Yoruba language, is widely spoken, not only in Nigeria, in some other African countries as well. So because its reach is quite wide and its use is quite massive. Now let's go to Swahili, that is in East Africa, is used as the way of conversation. You have about 20 million people using that language to communicate, either in Kenya or in Kenya. Kenya should be in East or in Southern Africa, and they use that to communicate very well. And it's something that can be sustained to preserve the pride of Africa.
I always, I don't like the Chinese, but I always refer to their civilization and their political will, their political fortitude. The Chinese language has existed for centuries. It's still there. In technology, they are applying the technology, they are applying innovation, and it's unbelievable. But the problem with the indigenous languages is that we don't have enough teachers. For instance, the Yorubas. The Yoruba spoken in Lagos is different from that of Ibadan. It's different from Abeokuta. When you get to Osun, it's getting sharp. When you get to Ogbomoso, the Yoruba is heavy. Even in Shagam. By the time you get to Iseyin and Oyo, different. Then when you get to Ilorin, it's different. So you need teachers for these indigenous languages, not only to teach, but to explain action of government. The so-called town hall meetings that we are being held, I have the privilege of attending one or two of them, and I've told them that there's no basis for English language in this place. And they are saying, what are you talking about? The important thing is to address these people in Yoruba language and get them to understand. No, they said no. There are some terms that you cannot express in Yoruba language properly. I said there's always a way to communicate in the local language to people. So also a child. If you are explaining something to a child in the language that the child understands, the child will not only trust you, he will believe in you, and that memory, that child carries that memory along and appreciates. But the problem now is that we don't have teachers. We don't have the technology to see what we are saying. There's no political will. Most politicians take their children to Corona, St. Michael's and all that, and the public schools are suffering. We don't have teachers. We don't have the materials. For instance, in Yoruba language, there's something called Ewi. Ewi.
Ewi,
What do you call it? Poetry.
Poetry.
It's unique. You don't teach it. It's innate, and there are ways to use that to eulogize whatever, you know. So, indigenous language, yes, we don't have the teachers, and we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the environment, we don't have the political will, and our institutions of African studies, I haven't seen them tackle indigenous languages the way it should.
All right, so I'd like to ask you this question as we go into this topic proper. Now, when we talk about indigenous education, is it just about history or tradition, or is it more about survival skills and moral values?
Storytelling. The strength of the African, even in Nollywood, is storytelling. You can tell stories about our ancient kingdoms. Mansa Kankamusa of Mali, Mansa Sundiata of Mali. I don't know how many children will know about those empires. The Oyo Empire,
The Oyo Empire.
Kingdom, the Abome Kingdom,
The Benin Kingdom.
So we come back to the question of history in schools. At the time, the federal government thought it was an abomination to teach history in schools. But people rallied around and forced the government to rescind that decision. And now they're teaching history. In my days, when I was in Loyola College in the 60s, we were talking about, there's something called government. Is it government or... There's
Social
a way,
studies?
Government
Subject.
studies. No,
Yeah, government.
Government. There's
Yes.
government. There's
The
government.
subject, government.
Subject, you get a little glimpse of what government is all about. Yes. Indigenous languages are challenged by infrastructure. There are no teachers. And the musicians are trying their best to portray the little bits and bits of our traditional values. But the government needs to put its foot down and give some support to the promotion of these languages.
Okay, so...
So I'm add this to your thoughts. When we talk about indigenous education, like I said earlier on, in secondary schools and even in universities, the only form of indigenous education we get is just language, Yoruba, Igbo. So how can we begin to incorporate this into our school curriculum?
Okay, so first of all, I went to Rando Secondary School and I was taught Yoruba, and I had to do that even in WAEC.
Yes.
I wrote an exam in WAEC and I came out with C.
C, wow.
However, the way I got the C, I don't know. I can't remember how I got it, but I know I got a C because I wrote the exam and I was taught the exam. And I was taught the local language. So when I got to Osun State, when I was going to the university, whilst they were looking at my results and what I was coming to study and some of the things that they were ticking until they got to where I scored Yoruba, and the lecturer said, the supervising lecturer who was actually looking at the admission said, oh, very good, and he ticked it. So I came in, and I was not surprised because after I did a diploma in local government studies, I went to do a BSc in public administration, and that's when I understood why the lecturer or the admission officer actually ticked the Yoruba language, of which I scored C. It's because I studied local traditional government institutions as part of my course, part of the courses that I read in school whilst I was doing then diploma, and also as I was doing BSc. And then we're taught about the Oyo Empire, the Osun State, the Oni of Ife. If it's an institution of itself, the government at that local level, the Yoruba traditional style of government, and it made me, I knew a whole lot of things, to the extent that when Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi II was being installed as the Oni of Ife, then I was still in the university, and I knew exactly when we were told that they got to the peak of his installation that took 7 days. He's not going to be coming out for those 7 days, and movement will have to be restricted in some certain form. I knew very well what was happening, so I was all in school, in campus. I didn't go to town. Yes. So, and during his installation too, I knew everything that was happening, because I had not only got credit in Yoruba, but I was being taught the systems of government of the people. So, it aided my understanding. Our veteran broadcast journalist here, Bayo Laoye, said there are no teachers and schools are not doing. We can bring it back into the school curriculum. Now, all private schools in Lagos State, if government is going to be very, very serious about that, is going to, through the Lagos State Education Board, and going to influence it, make sure that they make it part of their curriculum. Because it's as if it was only those who were in public schools where, it went through doing one of the local languages. Whether you are in the southeast, you need to study Igbo. If you're in the southwest, you need to do Yoruba. If you are in the south, maybe you're going to study one of the languages, depending on maybe the community where the school is located. If you're in the eastern, if you're in the south, in the northern part of the country, you're going to either do one of the Tiv language, Fulani, or the Hausa language, depending on where it is located. We need to bring that back. And for most of it, you see that most of our young men and ladies who actually went to study Yoruba in university didn't end up with it, either working in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or working in the educational sector. Most of them worked in the banks. Yeah, most of them worked in the banks, and they worked in other places as well. So if we're going to have teachers at that level where they will need to sustain the language, then we need to go back, and we started from the policy framework, from states. Then we make sure that we not only sustain, we need to make it have roots. And one other thing that is going to make the local language to be sustained and kept, where they belong, is the movie industry. The movie industry has a very, very great role to play, the media. Now, in some media houses as we speak, and the local television stations, mostly, especially the ones that are owned by the government, they read news in Yoruba language. Do they still do that? Or they fail to have become too sophisticated and too advanced for it?
I know it's common in radio stations, Yoruba radio stations, and the rest of it.
It should be sustained. In fact, the government-owned media outlet should sustain it. Either in the primetime news, they should dedicate about 10, 15 minutes or so to read the news on television in the local dialect, either in Yoruba. Today we are having BBC Hausa language. We should have, if the BBC are going to be serious about it, there's BBC Yoruba too. And so if the BBC are going to be doing that, then the local media outfits have a responsibility to make sure they play a greater role. The movie makers, movie producers themselves there are so many movies that are shot in the Yoruba language, and it is subtitled in English. And I think that is a very, very great, innovative idea to sustain the local language in the continent of Africa. Not just only Yoruba, Swahili, that is being spoken in the southern and the eastern part of Africa, and other parts of the continent.
All right, coming to you, Mr. Olaoye.
I also want to add that for you to teach, there must be literature.
Yes.
We don't have the writers. In my own days, D.O. Fagunwa, Ogoju Ode Ninu Igbo Irumole, he had a series of books like that. They are fiction, but they were about 5 or 6 or 7 before he died. That was the benchmark for Yoruba literature. We don't have that kind of pedigree anymore. There are no writers. In fact, when the last mission I went for the Nigerian Guild of Editors, this issue of creative or the non-availability or the scarcity of writers came up again. There are not enough writers for even the English textbooks, not to talk about indigenous something. So we don't have the literature, we don't have the writers, and we don't have the political will. So the Nigerian, the tertiary institutions in Nigeria, the universities, the colleges of education, should now have a deliberate policy of training teachers in indigenous languages, and they are doing it. Dele Momodu studies Yoruba in Ife, but he's a fantastic salesman, whatever, politician, whatever.
All right, so I want us to look at the critical sector here. You mentioned Japan, you mentioned China, right?
China.
And it's so interesting when you find out that everything they do there, it's in their language. So I want to ask, yes, the world they say is going global. So what do you think is the biggest threat to indigenous knowledge? Is it globalization? Is it neglect or total erasure?
Everything. Neglect, globalization, government attitude, wrong perception, wrong misconception, and wrong perception. Both by government, both by us too, you know. I was telling you the other time about Oriki. You can't be Babatunde, you must have an Oriki. My friend that came in now, Dr. Rafil, I just asked him, PG, what's your, he said, Akonji. I said, yes, you are proper, you must have an Oriki.
Every
that
Yoruba.
has faded in our history. It has faded in the hierarchy of things. Because my grandmother, I used to call her Yolori. When you say Eka Roma, she would say, Kabo Akonji, Akoni. She will not say Kabo Bayo. That Akoni is a kind of praise, encouragement, inspiration. That is non-existent now. And I don't know what the African Institute of African Studies are doing. I don't know what all these institutes, Goethe institutes, all these institutes that are doing cultural revival, cultural awareness are doing as regards the basics. Let us have more writers. Let us have literature. Let us have content in Yoruba. Go TV is doing one or two things in Yoruba, Igbo language, which I admire too, apart from films mentioned. They have some clips, some podcasts on greetings and whatever. That's the way to go. That's the way to go.
All right, coming to you, Pri, what do you think? What's the biggest threat to indigenous knowledge? I know in Brazil, there are some Yoruba festivals that they do there, some of them. So, but what do you think? Do you think globalization, and do you see a situation whereby we can have an exchange of culture, languages among Africa, exporting it? Like I said, in Brazil, there's some Yoruba festivals done there.
In Africa, Yoruba language is widely spoken of. Most of them in Africa too, the Hausa and the Fulani language is also widely used and spoken. So the thing is, it's globalization has its own role that it played. However, when making comparisons with China, they were colonized by who? Maybe by the British. And they were supposed to be speaking English. But in order to really, undo colonization, because colonization will, rob you of your pride, your identity, and if they want to start to take away your identity, one of the very good place to start from is your language. And we can remember the French policy of assimilation in the Francophone countries. So it's assimilation, and to take away your language is to take away your pride, your identity, because according to psychologists, when a man thinks, or when a person thinks, they think in their local language, they think in their local dialect, because it facilitates better understanding. So I was actually saying that's debatable to the psychologist who actually told me that, because if you think in your local language, what about those who don't speak the local language, who don't understand the local language? I said, well, they will have to think in the language they are even more conversant with. So a local language play is very, very critical to one's development, even mentally. So the Chinese was trying to do away with everything that relates to colonialism. So they have an ideology to localize and to domesticate and to promote that which actually belongs to them. In that sense, they made away with English language to the extent that in their communication, in school, when they are being taught with their local language. Look at the level of development in education, in tech, all across the world as we speak. They all do that in their local language. In fact, if you go to some of the gadgets that they export out of their countries, it's either you are setting it in English language, in English British, English America, then they have other languages, or in China.
In China, yes.
In China. So, but how many of those languages that you have there, you can set it in Yoruba, in Igbo, or in other languages? Except there was some time ago, I don't know if it's still very much obtainable or existent out there, that if you go to some ATM machines, you'll be asked on what language you want to carry out your transaction, in Yoruba, in Igbo, in Hausa, in Efik, in Ijaw. But I don't know if they actually do that at the moment. But let me tell you something. The number of people that you find using those services in their local language are so insignificant. So insignificant. Rarely you see when you move around Lagos, you see some local commercial vehicle drivers. They're listening to the radio, and trust me, they're not listening to radio stations in the English language. It's in a specific local dialect, in Yoruba or in other language. I believe it's obtainable in Lagos, here in the southwestern part of the country, in the southeastern part of the country. And that is why owning media outfits in local languages should be something that should be promoted. Now, globalization, what we should be calling globalization is not language homogenization, because globalization should, has its own positives and its negatives. There are some people who feel, okay, globalization, there are some, when you look at buildings, infrastructure, architectural style, globalization will tell you that, or people's mentality in globalization will tell you that, okay, if you see a structure that actually, looks like what is obtainable in olden British colonial era, they will tell you, okay, globalization brought that to being. The skyscrapers that we have currently existing, is that globalization? Yes, but did it come with development? Of course it did. There are some other parts of town that you go to and people just felt, okay, maybe in the southwestern part of the country, because that's where I spent most of my days. And they're like, okay, look at this building. Some of these Yoruba movies that you watch and those ancient Yoruba houses that you see, it's scarce. You find them only in rare places across Lagos or maybe Ondo State or your state. You can see more of those in those places. Globalization has not completely eroded that or taken those buildings away. Those who own those structures wanted it to stay, even though they have the wherewithal to build what is currently obtainable in the urban areas. But they just want those ones to stay because it's, for them, it's a reminiscence. They used to think about the way things used to be, and it gives them this sense of pride and responsibility that, look, I know where I'm coming from. Unlike what people will, attribute, I don't want to call name, to the head of the conservative in England, where we cannot stop talking about.
Always in the news.
I think the narrative now, the media should complement this narrative. Not only the media owners, entrepreneurs that are establishing media outfits all over the place. In the north, it's more profound in the north. You have more newspapers in Hausa now. Apart from Yoruba, you have erosion Yoruba, maybe in the southeast, I don't know what you have there. But I think that's the way to go. And also, politically, because you can't avoid the politics. All the, is it 8 geographical divisions in Nigeria? 6 geographical divisions could deliberately or subconsciously or informally institute a platform where their own peculiar indigenous languages are being promoted. I know we have so many, but geographically, if we handle that from that side, where geographical Northeast Commission, Southwest Commission, whatever, promote their indigenous languages. The incoming government is giving a political will to this crusade to promote our indigenous something. And then the universities too must collaborate with the traditional institutions, not only with traditional rulers, traditional institutions. There are people who are versed in chieftaincy, they are not necessarily traditional rulers. They know so much about the history of the people. They may be illiterate, in other words, they don't know how to speak or write English, but they have the history. And that, I think that's what's called folklore. Folklore. Jimmy Sholanke was trying to do it in those days.
Yeah, storyland.
But nobody sustained it. And now the media is in a dilemma as to how to revive storytelling on television. That is a missing gap. And that's why the media has to wake up.
So Olumide, there is no incentive for...
Should that be?
Well, it should be voluntary.
Thank you.
Because it should be voluntary. There's no incentive for anyone who wants to promote a local language as we speak. What is the incentive? A politician will only do that when he goes for campaign and he's going to campaign to the people at the ebb of society. He knows that, look, in this place, I need to establish the fact that, hey, I am one of you. That's when he speaks the local language. There are other places where he goes, he doesn't. So where they are required to speak the local language, he's going to speak it. But for organizations, if there are no incentives there, they won't do anything. Most of the states across Nigeria, you see there's always the Ministry of Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs. They are also saddled with the responsibility of promoting indigenous languages, indigenous values and ethics at the ebb of society. Do they really do that? They don't. They don't do that. And if they do that, we would have been seeing most of their works out there. You see only private individuals doing that. And let me tell you something. Our language or the African identity, most especially Nigeria. Nigeria is at the forefront. Nigerians are so westernized, or we'll call it development. We'll call it advancement. We'll call it that we are very sophisticated people. Yes, but Nigerians have become, in the whole of Africa, Nigerians are the most westernized. Look at the Kemi Badenoch. You can never tell, if not for the color of her skin and of her name. Yes, you can never tell. And you can see how she is trying to make, if she has something that she can bath with, to remove that, she will. Though Nigerians have been telling her, maybe you should stop using the name. Well, so what else can we say? We have institutions. Biola, you refer to institutions for them to promote. They are not. How many Ministry of Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs in the eastern part of the country, in the southern part of the country, and even in the southwestern part of the country, even in the northern part of the country, promoting indigenous. Okay, fine, we can't talk about the cultural festivals. Indigenous activities to make sure that these languages are well sustained. They are not. If it's not going to bring some form of dividend, they might not engage in it. In fact, they might consider it as a waste of government revenue. Right. But you see, it's not only a waste, because it will be sustaining identity and local tradition. And let me tell you something, if we continue at the space we are going, trust me, in the next 50 years, we are the continent of Africa. Let me not say the continent of Africa, but I say about 50% of Nigeria is gone.
Yes,
all right.
I just want to talk about Kemi Badenoch. You know, she's a girl we all know. I know her very well. She was born just across the street there. I regard her as a West blanket, a big disappointment, and a big letdown that she should be uttering what she's uttering. For whatever source, for whatever reason, I cannot imagine. In fact, there's a word Yorubas use that I would not like to use. It's NTBB.
All right. Thank you very much, Barry. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll look at some other areas like farming methods, herbal medicines, and of course, rituals and ceremonies. These are all part of indigenous education. When we come back, we will look at that. It's Just Africa.
rise of Ankara fabric in West Africa has transformed it from merely an industry into a vital part of culture, identity, and art woven into everyday life. This evolution has encouraged many to enter into the business side of Ankara. Today, the fabric is not only worn, but also used in interior decorations and artworks, making it a significant item in our changing world. Despite this, the industry stands at a crossroads, balancing tradition, modern challenges, and global market demands. My name is Grace Komolafe, and I invite you to join me on this second episode of Ankara as we explore the current state of production, the hurdles it faces, particularly in Nigeria, and the abundant opportunities that exist within this vibrant sector. Ankara's journey from West African markets to the global
Welcome back to Just Africa. We're still talking indigenous education. So let's look at traditional farming. Let's look at herbal medicine. I remember my mom used to tell me while growing up, she and her brothers, just before they go to school, they will first go to their father's farm and do some bit of farming there and come back and go to school. And when they come back also, they do that. It was instilled in them. I know also, I think in secondary school, a particular subject where you just go, they will teach you how to plant a seed. But do we still have them, and what can be done?
If we are talking about traditional farming, I will first of all highlight the significance of our traditional rulers in whatever we are doing. In farming, in education, in morality, in security, and whatever. But lately, our traditional rulers have upset us and have disappointed us, and they have compromised. Sorry to use the word. So our KBAZs and the OBs and whatever have memias, have mortgaged their conscience, and they are not really telling the people what is happening. For instance, this issue of language should be promulgated and spearheaded by traditional rulers. In other words, anybody that comes to the palace must be given that dose of encouragement to promote something. For instance, you can't go and meet Oba Akiolu, real one Akiolu, and begin to talk all the Oxford English that you have. He will put you down and he will talk about the Yoruba, the sense of Yoruba, or the essence of learning Yoruba. Even if you say, I don't understand Yoruba, I said, no, but you are in Lagos. Olatibo Igbo now. Olatibo Yoruba. You know what I mean? So traditional rulers should spearhead that. Traditional rulers can also spearhead farming, the various seasons, how farmers can form cooperatives, can settle quarrels among farmers, can they relate to government as regards improved seedlings, because that's what we need now. With climate change, you need improved seedlings, improved fertilizers, equipment, data. So I think the traditional rulers should spearhead it because they are the custodian of our culture and they are the leaders of our people.
Coming to you, Priya, how can we incorporate this into our schools? Local farming.
Local farming. Okay, first of all, traditional rulers are the custodian of the culture, and I want to talk on the other side of traditional rulers because they've lost their place of
relevance.
I won't call it, I won't say relevant because they are very, very relevant. There's a place that they used to hold in the Nigerian polity, that traditional rulers used to hold in Nigerian polity because of the significant role, and they are seen as the rallying point of people in society. So they held this position whereby they occupy those positions, they are not politically appointed.
Yes.
And they used to be very much well revered. And you could see the traditional ruler, I don't want to mention names, but let me just use the word traditional ruler, mostly the foremost in the states. When they cough, the governor that was elected politically will listen. But these days, politics, some traditional rulers that they're supposed to be seen as the custodian of the people, of the tradition. Some of them, they were brought up, brought up, nurtured, and they were schooling abroad in England, in Yale, in the United States, you name it, in Japan, in Germany, and probably by way of tradition, it got to their compound or to their house that they are going to be their clan. They will be producing the next traditional ruler, and this family will be doing as, oh, we have one of our sons in England or in Germany. Then they rush out there against his will, they drag him, it is our turn, you must become the traditional ruler, and they dump him there. He had nothing. He drag him, and he's wearing jeans and t-shirts somewhere, and they drag him there. He has no idea, he didn't even grow up there. He has no idea of what he's coming to do. So how are you going to expect that man to become the custodian of the tradition of such people who have so much reverence and respect for the stool? So it calls to mind, and these people are like, okay, how are we going to have these people? How are we going to transfer this culture, this tradition, these values that will hold so dear to the next generation? It started from areas from places where these people are not well planted in society. So even when it falls on that stool, leave him alone, because he is not. You don't go to school for this thing.
Yes.
You grow up, you grow into it. You must have an understanding of it. They've lost that place. And since we started adopting these people into the political space, I mean, I'm talking about tradition. Now, we've started adopting, they started becoming very, very political. They lost it completely, to the extent that people don't really attribute that respect to them anymore, because they make political statements. And when they start doing that, they stop becoming the rallying point of the people. And when they stop becoming the rallying point of the people, they lose their poignance and their rightful place in society. And as a result of that, they start losing the value. And that's a source of concern. So we need, if by way of policy, they can revisit it, it will be good, because these days the governor of the state can wake up. I don't want you know what happened in northern Nigeria, in
still
Kano
fresh.
State, in Kano State. Currently now, as we speak, in your state, they are still going through their point, and there are lots of politicking that goes into it. Now, this politicking, makes the people lose the confidence. I'm not saying there's not going to be politics, but there are some traditions and some rules that should be respected within the culture, that politics cannot infiltrate. Because these days the governor can actually depose a monarch or a traditional ruler, can depose him and bring him back and remove him, brings one that belongs to the political party and sits in there, and that has actually defeated some of the core part of the tradition. So if we are taking it back to becoming a part of the curricula, we must really explain it, because this current generation, you need to convince them more than the letters that they read in textbooks.
The controversy and crisis behind the vacancy of any traditional institution is amazing, and it's annoying. But for the one of Ibadan, where the senator has been, there's always rancor when it comes to feeling political. These are supposed to be sober,
all right,
honest processes.
Sorry to cut you. Take us through. Give us a bit of knowledge into the installation of these obas.
The installation of an oba, to our knowledge, is best done by a council. A council. That is, in Oyo, we have the Oyomisi. In Ibadan, you have the Olubadan in council. In every town, in every village, in every town, there are always platforms, bodies to safeguard the sanctity of election or selection of an Oba. Even if it means going through the Ifa, it has to be properly done. But the case where it is being manipulated by political concerns and monetary gains, where the revelations of Ifa, revelations of Ifa are being manipulated, what do you get? You get crisis and you get chaos.
The gods now play politics.
And that is why the traditional institution now, they are at a crossroad. And just recently, the Speaker of the Osun State House of Assembly is being recalled by his people because he's insulted the traditional ruler of this town. So it's as bad as that. They have bastardized the institution. They have demoralized subjects. And the traditional institution has become a laughingstock for politicians and professionals. Some professionals don't want to have anything to do with traditional institutions because there's this issue of ego. My Oba is higher than yours. That is they are not doing justice to our ancestors and to ourselves by saying that this Oba is greater than this, and because we don't have history.
Okay, let's move into this one. Herbal medicine. I remember growing up, when you fall ill, before you are taken to the hospital, there's this agbo, what we call herbs, that you are being given. That it cures almost anything, from skin reactions to malaria, typhoid, this, that. It cures almost everything. And, well, some people growing up learned how to make some of this agbo, while some resort to buying it outside. Can you take us through?
Yes, in those days, it's true, it was happening. But with globalization, westernization, economic development, you find that those agbo are being adulterated with the results that you don't have dosage, you don't have the proper ingredients for the agbo, and then there's adulteration. That's on the side of the traditional institution. Just like you have fake products, fake drugs with chemists. There is no regulation for traditional medicine. And I'm glad that our institution, Souq Television, Walsh Media, we are collaborating with herbal institutions, research institutions that are trying to distill fact from fiction. So that we can be able to utilize the potential of traditional medicine. It's immense. But just like I said, there's attitude. There's stigma. There's arrogance. The Western medical doctors think that they are superior to the traditional ones, and it keeps on and on and on and on. I understand, I'm not so versed in it, I may be corrected, that in China, you have an option between traditional and Western. It may not be practicable here, but we should give traditional institutions, traditional medicine, a leverage. Bring them forward and encourage them, inspire them, support them, invest in them.
All right, Priya, coming to you. I know growing up also, some families have a small garden at their backyard, and they plant some very specific leaves, which is actually. So how do we teach the younger generations methods of plants that heal certain illnesses? Okay,
I grew up seeing elderly people around who they drink they drink lots of things. Most of them you see in bottles, and they have leaves in it. And some of the time when I get to ask, they're telling you this leaf is for malaria, this is for fever, this leaf is for stomach ache, this is for this, and they say a whole lot of things. And sometimes as a child, you're being sent to go and purchase some of these things that they drink. It's because their I would say their own fathers, whom I would call grandfathers, and the great-grandfathers passed that knowledge to them. They spent a lot of the time in farms. these people do not have formal education. They didn't study pharmaceutical or medicine in school or pharmacist in school. In fact, you call them illiterates. But they can go to the bush and tell you that leaf can heal this, that, and the other. They will tell you that leaf, you can use it for snake bite. They can tell you that leaf, and they are telling you the medicinal value of some of these leaves. And you are wondering, but you didn't have any form of education. How did you know this? So they get it. They tell you that leaf can be used to treat tetanus. Just squeeze the leaf. They are telling you, oh, you have sugar in your system. They are telling you, go to the market, get the bitter leaf, wash it, drink the water, and that is it. And they're telling you, add this to this, and you are wondering how they came about this knowledge. But they've not been properly passed to the other generation, the current generation. And you could see a few of them. So I think that the outcry has been made for quite a whole long period of time. So it got to the stage whereby they started inculcating it, the traditional herbal medicine, with those who are studying the orthodox medicine in university, to the extent that both now are coexisting side by side. China, we've been told about the Chinese. They come to the Nigeria, they come to most African countries, they buy large acres of land for the purpose of farming. But you see, it's not only for the purpose of farming. There are leaves that have medicinal value, herbs that they export straight from Nigeria and from the continent of Africa straight back to their country. And the government must begin to look into this. And for the Ministry of Herbal Medicine that Mr. Baolaye is talking about, it will be very, very good for the government to pay attention to them and to also develop by way of policy. Because currently now it is that when you domestically cultivate some raw materials or you make production in the country, at the most, you are not expected to ship out 100% of it out of the country for sales. At least 25% of whatever you are getting must be sold in the country. But most organizations, including foreign organizations and China and other, they don't do that. So the government must begin to pay attention to them in most of the communities where their farms are situated, to know what exactly they are farming and how they are shipping it out of the country, because it is actually of a great disadvantage to most of the African nations, and we must seek to curtail that. But we also must seek to pass that, to harness that, by way of economic policies, assist local industries, local companies who are engaged into deep manufacturing to be able to compete with these foreign companies that are coming into the country because of their large financial chest, because they will not be, this is not a level playing field anymore, because if foreign multinational organizations are coming in to ferry out these medicinal leaves out of the country, the local companies will be disadvantaged. So government must come in order to create a level playing ground for both the local and the foreign organizations coming.
All right, so lastly, I want us to look at rituals and ceremony. Yes, when you say rituals, people tend to
no go area.
Yes, but if you look at the Eyo festival in Lagos, it is a I remember growing up, it's a privilege to take part in that particular festival, the Eyo festival. That, okay, yes, I am putting
I like
on
the
that
word privilege.
regalia.
I like the word privilege, because for you to put on that white cloth, it's a privilege, no matter which you are. Not to talk about an adimu. An adimu is phenomenal. That is why when an adimu approaches, all other Eyos will bow down with their staffs. That is tradition for you. That is tradition for you. So we cannot run away from the fact that we need traditional medicine for our survival. We need a traditional institution to propagate this this practice of promoting traditional medicine. We cannot do it without traditional rulers. What the government needs to do is to encourage and empower these traditional rulers. It's ridiculous how much some traditionals earn. You see their palaces. So they can succumb to pressures from political political mischief makers, you know. But when they have enough within their capacity, they can direct, they can instruct, they can give instructions, and they can guide. They will not misinform the people, they will not mislead them, but will give them the proper thing. So when it says that we must consult Ifa for this thing, you must do it. With the Ayos, you cannot pretend to be an Adimu. There are consequences. You cannot pretend to go and borrow the cloth there. There are consequences. And you cannot travel outside Lagos Island crossing the sea. It's an abomination. But these are being breached all over the place. There are some terrible things too that I cannot say here. And those of us who are born and bred and we are indigenous, we don't like it. Because this question of urbanization, westernization, globalization is affecting traditional institutions and it's affecting traditional medicine itself. In other words, just like you have in other professions, there are babalawos all over the place. People just concocting all sorts of things to misinform people and mislead people and leading to death. So we have to respect the traditional institutions so that they can give the push for traditional medicine.
All right, so we'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we continue with the program. It's Just Africa, don't go nowhere.
Days of humanity when people roamed the earth unclothed, to the Stone Age when leaves and natural materials were used for modesty, clothing has undergone a remarkable transformation. As we progress to the weaving of fabrics and the art of textile printing, Ankara emerged as one of the earliest and most distinctive forms of attire. Today, Ankara has evolved beyond its origins, becoming a significant cultural symbol for various ethnic groups, states, and nations. Ankara, more than just a fabric, it's a symbol of pride and culture for millions across West Africa, deeply embedded in their identity and heritage. I bet you've been in touch with this fabric one way or the other, but have you ever asked where and how it all began? The journey and history of Ankara is what we are about to uncover, and how it became a powerful emblem of African heritage. The story of Ankara begins not in Africa, but thousands of miles away in Indonesia, using the batik techniques. Batik is an ancient Indonesian art from where wax is used to create different patterns on fabric. The process involves applying wax to certain areas of the fabric to resist dye, creating elaborate designs. In the 19th century, Dutch colonizers who controlled Indonesia recognized the appeal of batik and then sought to replicate it. They adapted the technique using industrial methods such as roller printing to produce the fabric more efficiently and in larger quantities. Talking about its transition to West Africa, Dutch manufacturers initially aimed to sell the printed batik fabric in Indonesia and Europe. However, fabric found a more enthusiastic market in West Africa, where it was embraced for its vibrant colors and patterns. The Dutch prints, while not initially popular in Europe, became highly prized in West African countries, evolving into what is now known as Ankara. How about its cultural integration?
Welcome back. It's still Just Africa. We're still looking at indigenous education. So, Mr. Olawi, we're talking about rituals and all that. I know when you talk about rituals, a lot of people frown. Like it seems a no-go area, but it's part of our culture,
especially the religious.
Yes, and I remember, not to make mention of the Oni of Ife, the first wife he married, and after the whole thing, we were told that she had to perform certain rituals before she can, move on with her life.
But rituals are sacrosanct. Rituals are sacrosanct. You remember the furor now that is happening after the death of Oba Kayode Adetono of Ijebu. They said that he was a Christian and that he will not be buried the traditional way. That is absurd. That is a ritual that must be respected. Rituals are not evil. They are not evil in themselves.
They are not
devilish. Sometimes they are tone ancestors. But that is traditional way of appealing to God. So it's not punitive, it's not destructive, it's not evil, and that is the way people like me who were born in this area, Aguda area, we look at rituals as if it's demonic, it's unnecessary, and no. But when I grew up, I went into traditional institutions, I realized that some of these rituals are really right. If they say that when you see you're coming, you remove your shoe, you remove your cap, it means a lot. It's not a joke. Those are rituals that you must respect.
What's the significance of removing
It's respect.
Respect.
Remove your shoes, remove your cap, let your go away, and that's it. But if you say you are stubborn, there are consequences, and there's nothing. Even if you have a bevy of policemen around you, it doesn't help this. You must respect. When you are in Rome, you do like the Romans. Can I come up with that? Yes, I think so. Rituals are necessary. We need them, and we must encourage traditional rulers to do them because they are capital intensive.
What's your thought about rituals? Do you think we should imbibe it even into the schools and let them know that certain cultures require certain rituals?
No, when we talk about rituals and festivals, it has a very, very significant meaning, and it's not only the meaning. It's not very, very significant. It's also very, very touchy and sensitive, because I cannot divulge or remove ritual from religion. The acts or the activities that are carried out as a religious person, either as a Christian or a Muslim, is also very, very important when you now start talking about rituals when it comes to tradition. So, for the example he just made, you see, and you're coming, you have to remove your shoes, remove your cap. I'm sorry, I cannot do that.
Why?
Because I am not of that tradition. But no, just a moment. Okay. Just ritual. I don't have.
But you will have been warned before your festival. You are usually warned.
Just a moment.
Even on radio and television, you are usually warned.
Just a moment.
When you sit there, you are approaching.
Just a moment. No, I don't have. For anyone who feels it belongs to
then you stay at home.
A Christian or a Muslim, is either a Christian or a Muslim, and his own religion has told him who to pay respect or who to make obeisance to.
Then you stay at home. You don't come out.
Okay. You cannot tell such person that you are under compulsion to remove your cap and remove your shoes to pay or make obeisance or reverence to a deity-like image. It will be encroaching on that person's religion, and he has the right to say no. One. Number two, if you said you have made a broadcast that there's going to be, this is not the government. You make the broadcast. We are under a democracy.
Okay.
And you say you are restricting my movement. The government is not restricting the movement. You said you are going to restrict my movement because you feel, okay, this is tradition. Fine, because you are living in that state. and this is the tradition or the custom of the people that we are going to carry out a ritual as it relates to our own tribe, language, or religion, and this is what we are doing. Fine, I may respect that and stay indoors because I don't want to be caught in something that is not going to be beneficial to me. But you cannot subject a people in this day and age. You are caught on the road, you must remove your shoes. It sounds like, okay, because you are a Muslim somewhere and you are doing your festival, you are trying to force every other person to do your festival with you. No, regardless, no. So that is why that ritual aspect, that ritual aspect is a very, very touchy
regardless
issue.
of religion.
So we must not force other people
too have religions. This is an ancestral activity.
Other people cannot be bound by it. They have their own right.
Fathers have been doing it.
They have their right.
So it's democracy.
They have their right. Yes,
it's semantic.
It is not actually semantics because
they are just talking Oyibo.
Mr. Lowry,
you are telling Oba Kakiolu that you will not respect your
No. Mr. Lowry, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
Are you a media practitioner?
No, that's not what I meant.
Don't say that.
If you look at that,
you will see that you will not remove your shoe. Are you saying that?
Mr. Raya, let me land with one question. Let me land a question. This religion that we talk about,
yes.
Christianity itself, let's be factual. It's part of Western civilization. If not for Western civilization, each clan you will have a deity.
You will say
growing up, I learned that each family should have a deity in their house that they worship. Okay. That is how it was.
Okay.
But over time.
Okay, so let's assume in the whole of Lagos or Ondo State or Ogun State or somewhere in the eastern part of the country or in the northern part of the country, every individual and every family has a deity they worship. All right?
Yes.
Now, you are from this family and you are taking a work now because the other families or the major families are celebrating their own deity. You will now be put under compulsion to make obeisance to that deity. That will be an encroachment on your own deity that you worship at home. So if that is going to be the case, I do not have any responsibility to be accountable to a deity that is strange to me. So if in this case that the Eyo is going to be coming out, and I don't want to be caught in that where I felt it encroaches on my own personal religious belief, and I'm not going to make obeisance to it. I'll better stay indoors and just wait for the festival or the ritual to be done. Then when it's done, I cannot come out, because if I'm going to come out and it's going to be you subjecting me to that, then that's going to be wrong, because the state actually does not support that. Because if you look at the Constitution, it is written in the Constitution that you have freedom of worship, and you will deny me that freedom if you are trying to force me to make obeisance to any other deity.
So I wish you the best of luck.
Mr. Larry, your final words.
As long as we are in the center of excellence, I wish you the best of luck.
All right, our past holds the seeds of our future. Indigenous education truly is not about living in yesterday. It's about carrying the wisdom of yesterday into the challenges of today and the possibilities of tomorrow. So as we rethink Africa's development path, perhaps the answers we seek are already within us, in the stories, languages, and lessons passed down through generations. Mr. Lowry, thank you very much.
I've had fun. Thank you very much.
All right, so, and to our viewers, what aspect of your culture are you passing on to the next generation? The conversation doesn't end here. It starts with you. I am Olumide Shokoya. This has been Just Africa. Until next time, keep the roots alive while reaching for the skies.
I am Oyin Priye Kromalemeni. Thanks for watching.